Excellent. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Really good to see so many people come along. I hope that you are feeling up to being interactive, using the chat. That's as far as you have to go. Be good to get some interaction. I'm going to share my screen. We have got some slides, but I really don't want this to be a death by PowerPoint situation, because that would be the antithesis of what we are talking about today. So what I will do, let me just share my screen. Let me know if anything isn't working properly.
Looks good, Marie.
Okay, awesome. So let's hide this so I can actually see. Hide meeting controls. There we go. So today, obviously, as you know, we're here to talk to you about developing a positive mindset. And this is an introduction. Some of you may be fully aware of what this is and just want to get a bit more practice in, want to get a bit of a jump start in your year. In the UK, it's been labelled Blue Monday today. I don't know if anyone has heard that, but we're fighting against that today, and that, you know, we want to kick this off with a very positive mindset for Mondays, for the year, every day. In fact, you know, it shouldn't be, Mondays definitely shouldn't be labeled as anything blue. In fact, the Samaritans have launched a new initiative, which is called Brew Monday. So getting a cup of tea and connecting with people, your friends, your relatives, anyone that you think would really benefit from you reaching out to them on a day like today. So hopefully if you do that, then you can do it with this, with all these positive thoughts and activities in mind, and be a really good influence on them and for yourselves. So, oh, am I on the right screen pressing the buttons? No, there we go. So I just want to introduce myself and Caitlin first, and hang on, I've got somebody else waiting to come in. There we go, let them in. Just want to introduce myself and Caitlin, who, you know, obviously we're here talking to you today. And so obviously I'm Marie Checker. I left my job at PwC about 6 months ago as the Global Wellbeing Centre of Excellence lead. Sounds very fancy. It was quite an amazing job, which is where I met Caitlin. And so I've had a good couple of years of working in the wellbeing space, particularly challenging through the pandemic, being in that role, and but amazing as well, working with so many people and supporting them through that difficult time. I've also got a master's in organizational psychology, which I was conveniently finishing just as the pandemic hit, in that role as well. So that was a lot of fun trying to write a dissertation during that time. But I got there. Sorry, I'm getting more people come in, so that's fine. I've also been a career coach for the last 10 years as part of my role at PwC, which was incredibly rewarding, and I developed quite a passion for coaching. So in the last couple of years, I've also been training to be a wellness coach and a transformational life coach. I feel that all of these things go just hand in hand, really, when we're talking about our well-being, our careers, our lives. These things are not separate, they're all completely intertwined. So it's a fantastic role. So I left PwC to really follow my passion as a coach, and also I do workplace consulting for well-being and coaching culture. So that's a bit about me. Caitlin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Marie. For all of you, my name is Caitlin Egan. And as Marie mentioned, we met at PwC. I worked in global human capital. And my role was specified in the performance area. I was on the talent and impact team, which is really great work, but it still wasn't fully my passion. And so around the same time that Marie left PwC, I left the firm as well. And I tapped on Marie's shoulder for some coaching to help me make the transition from the corporate world to my own business. And now I work in the field of sports psychology, specifically with athletes who are dealing with mental blocks or for people who have had injuries and they're either forced to retire and start a new chapter of life, or if they've dealt with some challenges and they're getting back into the sport and it's helping them get the confidence to jump back into sport. So my interest lies within sport, but a lot of what I've learned through my master's in positive psychology applies to many different areas in life. Even when I worked in the corporate world, I worked in financial services for many years up until my role in human capital. And it's really compelling, all of the themes of positive psychology that are relatable to everyday life and to various careers. So more about me. So as you could probably tell from my accent, I'm in the US. I live in the suburbs outside of New York. And it's my goal now that I'm raising a family, it's my goal to really spearhead my career in this sports psychology and positive psychology world. I did my master's degree in 2013, and my research was mainly on Paralympic athletes in the UK. And I looked at harmonious passion and obsessive passion. The terms kind of speak for themselves, but harmonious passion is when you are more focused on a well-rounded and you prioritize your well-being and you live this well-rounded life where there's certain components that you kind of dip into, whereas obsessive passion is when you're solely focused on one thing, whether it's your career or in my research, it was these Paralympic athletes solely focused on their sport. And that can be really detrimental to your well-being. And it's not so positive, and it can lead you down a pretty sad rabbit hole. So that research was really life-changing for me. And coming out of it, I really just wanted to embark on this new chapter and allow other people to see how the power of positive thinking can really transform your life in a great way. So that's my mantra for today. And you'll be hearing more about those types of topics from me later on in this hour. But I think that's enough about me for now, Marie. We can move forward.
Thank you, Caitlin. And it's great to hear every time about your experience and your dissertation for the Paralympics, Paralympians. I just find, if anyone can teach us about the power of positive thinking, it's those people. And in the UK, we labeled them superhumans in the Paralympics, and you can see why, because they're overcoming so many challenges, but also still being incredibly successful in what they're trying to do.
It's truly remarkable. It's remarkable.
Yeah. So, okay, let's move on and crack on with today's topic. And sorry, flicking between the slides. So today, by the end of the session, you're going to have a baseline understanding of some of the positive psychology and mindset theories. And don't worry, this isn't going to be a lecture style for you, but it's really good to understand where all of this actually comes from, to be able to really appreciate the impact that this way of positive thinking has. So hopefully you'll find this really useful just to understand some of these theories and models that relate to positive mindset. Through some of these activities, you're also going to have an improved self-awareness by the end of the session, and we're also going to give you a number of activities that you can go away and have a go at yourself. So follow up this session today with some of these notes, so you've got a list of the activities and things that we've talked about, so you can go away and start putting some of these things into practice. Sorry, I'm still admitting some people into the session, just multitasking. So we're going to start with an activity, and again this is going to involve everyone getting into the chat, and I want you to think of one good thing that has happened to you today. It can be big or small, but something good that's happened to you today. And if it's 6:30 in the morning for you or similar, then feel free to think of something that happened, a good thing that happened to you yesterday. I'll just give you a few moments to just pop that into the chat. Awesome. walking
A
at
walk at
lunchtime,
lunchtime,
catching up with people. Cool.
lunch with an ex-colleague. Oh, that's great.
Yes, the sun is out. Blue skies, lots of blue skies today here in around London.
Oh, nice.
Coffee in
Lucky
the
you.
morning. Yeah. Hey, remortgage got approved. That's a celebration.
That's
Exactly.
a great one. Walked the dog, enjoyed my breakfast. Hey, I had the same one. I enjoyed my breakfast too, Penny, and it was really nice.
Awesome. So birds that you can see from your office window, that's nice. And sat in a field with horses at lunchtime. That's super cool. Very cool. Fave tea arriving from Ireland. Cool. Okay, I've got one more activity for you. Think of a good thing that you have made happen for you or someone else. And I'm going to say, use the last week to think of that. If you can think of something that for that today, that's great. Laughing at 06:45, that's great. It sounds wonder if that's something we've done to make you laugh there, Roxanne, because you were in the session. So something that you have made happen for you or somebody else, a good thing. My good thing today is that I went and picked up my stepson from school with a headache and took him some paracetamol. My good deed for the day.
Good job, Marie. Helped my sister-in-law. Oh, that's nice. And she was anxious. And improving morning routine for hubby. That's great. Baking a cake.
Sounds good. Yeah. Nice.
Oh, nice. Donation.
Tools donated. That's cool.
Lunch. These are all great things. I think as we're putting these in the chat, it's good to think about, how does it make us feel now that we're thinking of these happy moments and that we're thinking of the positive that we do for ourselves and that we do for other people? Does it make you all feel more positive? I certainly don't think it makes you feel drained or negative. It's nice and light and happy. How often do we actually reflect on these small things in life? How often do we take time in our day to think about these things?
We have a tendency to focus at the end of the day on what maybe didn't go so well today, as opposed to, well, what did go so well today? Because probably more went well than didn't go well. I mean, we do all have bad days, of course. That's, that's just realistic. But every day, is it more realistic to be thinking and reflecting on the good things that have been there? And also just from reading about all these cool things that people are doing for themselves and for other people, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy as well, just like people are doing kind stuff. And I can get bogged down in thinking that the world is not a very nice place sometimes, and actually it's just really good to have that reassurance that actually people as a whole are pretty good and do nice things for each other. So just for me, it feels good to see people talking about these things. So
I think
thank you,
definitely
everyone.
Contagious.
So hopefully you're feeling warm and fuzzy to get this session going and start thinking about this. And the reason we wanted you to have a think about that is because we want you to actually feel some of the benefits instantly of that positive thinking. And this is the results from a lot of research that's been done on this topic, and Caitlin will talk to you about the sort of science behind positive thinking in a second. Oh, can we just keep everyone on mute? Not sure who just popped off then.
What's wrong with your digestion?
Oh, Caitlin, would you mind?
Occasionally I still have pooping issues. So
oh, there we go. Hang on.
whenever I feel that happening, I start increasing my constipation.
There we go. So if we look at what the research is telling us, is that positive thinking, having a positive mindset, really improves our mental well-being, our physical well-being. It can increase our happiness, improve our emotional state. And they're even starting to show that it can help us to live longer, which is, quite amazing, really. So Caitlin, what's behind this? What is this science?
Yeah, so that's the most important part, Marie, about positive psychology, is that it is science-based. And years ago, a main concern in the field of positive psychology is that the name positive psychology it comes across as a bit fluffy. But the truth is, and once you dig a little deeper and kind of lift the hood of the car and see what science it really is, you come to realize that the researchers, the positive psychologists, have done so much research, and there's so much scientific evidence behind their findings and their theories that it's pretty incredible. And positive psychology really is the scientific study of what makes life worth living. That comes right from the founder of positive psychology. His name is Martin Seligman, and he has done a lot of scientific research on the approach to studying human thoughts and human behaviors and feelings. And what's incredible about positive psychology that differs it from other fields of psychology is the focus on strengths. And it's the focus on strengths instead of weaknesses. It's building upon the good that you already have instead of trying to repair the bad. And it's not ignoring your weaknesses. It's not ignoring the bad. You're self-aware, your strengths and your weaknesses, but it's really finding ways to promote yourself and really use all of the strengths that you have. And maybe if you don't know your strengths, a big part of it is doing something like you are today and learning more about these topics, and then digging a bit deeper and realizing, hey, I do have some strengths that I didn't even realize I had, or maybe I knew that, but I didn't realize how I could build upon them. So that's the gist of positive psychology. And as we go through some of the important topics today, I'll walk you through where they came from and the specific researchers, so that you have a little bit of knowledge under your belt as we come out of here today.
Thanks, Caitlin. I think it's so true. And we talk about understanding ourselves, understanding, what our core values are and what are our strengths. And a lot of the time, we don't necessarily see or recognize all of our strengths and how to use them. So really, really important stuff that we're going to share with you towards the end of the session about how you can start to understand your strengths, your values, and making sure they're aligned, because it's that misalignment that can really impact how we think, and are we thinking positively, and what that is impacting our day to day. So, is this running slowly? No, there we go. So what is a positive mindset? Again, the researchers have actually shown that mindset is, or our happiness, I should say, is 50% genetic. So just 50% of our genetic makeup determines our happiness. 10% is determined by environmental factors, external factors like the weather, where we grew up, how much money we have, things like that, which leaves 40% under our control. And that 40% is determined by what we do in the habits that we form, and what mindset we choose to adopt. And I use that word choose quite specifically because what we're going to demonstrate to you and discuss is realizing that we have a lot more choice than we realize. So choosing what we do with our lives and how we choose to respond and choose to feel in situations, or choose to control our emotions, is really important. So we're just going to run through a few more than a couple, but what the experts actually say, and just want to see how these resonate with you. I'll read them out just so that we can go through these at the same time. So positive thinking, or an optimistic attitude, is the practice of focusing on the good in any given situation. I'm on the wrong screen again. When people work with a positive mindset, performance on nearly every level, productivity, creativity, engagement improves. That's quite a sort of professional, organizational perspective on it, but you can think of all of those things in your personal lives as well. How productive and creative are you and engaged are you with your life? Gratitude is a big contributor to happiness in life, suggesting that the more we cultivate gratitude, the happier we will be. Negative thinking leads to people not being able to cope with daily stresses, resulting in psychological and physical health problems. And finally, positivity makes us feel good, can change the way the mind works, transform the future, and minimizes thinking negatively. So I've just put these all up on the screen to just summarize them all. But how do you resonate with any of these statements? And, you know, how does it make you feel when you read these? I mean, Caitlin, what are your thoughts on these experts' definitions of positive mindset?
Yeah, these are all, to me, these are all very exciting. I especially relate to the gratitude quote, as gratitude being a big contributor to happiness in life, because I think when people feel stuck and they're not sure how to make the transition into having a positive mindset, a really simple thing that you can do is practice gratitude, as we did earlier today. We were thankful for what brought us happiness and how we brought other people happiness. And so that specific quote, as you were reading it, Marie, it really struck my attention. But all of these quotes and all of these researchers are really compelling, and I would welcome anyone else's thoughts. If you'd love to pop them in the chat, that would be great, just to understand, you know, what comes up on your end. Marie and I think about this stuff a lot, but what comes up for everyone else?
Yeah.
How do you feel when reading these and when Marie read them out loud?
Yeah, and I mean, here we go. Got some comments coming in before I go and rattle off mine.
The mind is a powerful tool, indeed.
Yeah.
Help us achieve. Yeah. And Yasmin, having a good day, I understand and find it easy. When I'm not feeling well or having a bad day is when it's a struggle. It is very difficult to flip the switch. That's why we do some research to find out what we can do. Yeah,
and that's a really important point, I think, that Yasmin makes about when you're not feeling well or anxious, that it's harder. And I think that's why it's so important that we try and practice this regularly, because it's always going to be easier to do these things when we're feeling good. You know, gratitude comes easy to us when good stuff's happening. But when stuff is not going so well, or when you're not feeling so good, can we still do it? Can we still find something in there to help us, to just help us bring something more positive into our day and into our mind that might just make a little bit of a difference to how we're feeling? And it is hard. Catherine's saying, I go down a negativity rabbit hole and think, and another thing is wrong, and another thing is hard to pull myself out. Yeah, exactly. And it's those sort of thought spirals, rabbit holes, as you call it. I like using that phrase as well, that we really want to talk about catching yourself doing that, developing self-awareness, which we're going to come to shortly. And by developing that self-awareness, you can start to catch yourself in that mindset. And before you go down those rabbit holes, and actually I've done it a few times this week, I've noticed myself about to start chipping away at myself about something and then gone, whoa, what are we doing here? Where are we going with that? That's just not helpful. But it does take practice. That's, you know, really important to remember and recognize. And let's see what Tom's saying. I think having self-awareness helps, like stopping and checking in with ourselves. Are we being negative, irrational? Not just flipping the switch, but checking what we're feeling in the moment. Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant, Tom, because this isn't, and Caitlin, you'll have something more to add to this, I'm sure, but it's not about just being positive and ignoring the rest, or being sort of I can't think what the word is at the moment, but we want to talk to you about this being realistic, and all a part of that is about checking in with ourselves, as you say, Tom, and just recognizing how we're feeling and kindly questioning, is that where I need to be? Do I need to be thinking these things? How else could I think about this? Could I reframe it in any way? And start probing very kindly at yourself. Caitlin, there's some more coming in here. Do you want to?
Yeah. So and also I think a person, I think it was Julie, had mentioned something pretty important above, where she said, I could practice gratitude, but sometimes I just don't feel it. Like, you could practice something and really not feel warm and mushy, and that's totally okay. That's life, right? And that's similar to what Tom said. And Francesca here was writing about learning our own behaviors and being able to understand yourself. And I think we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but that's where self-compassion comes in. It's like a reality check with yourself, and you realize, okay, I don't feel great, and I'm doing what I can. I'm doing my 3 grateful things for the day, and I still, not feeling like a rock star. And that's okay. You have compassion for yourself as to how you're feeling, and you just keep trying, because Marie, you and I have had these conversations before about faking it till you make it. And sometimes you have to do that for a little while before it really hits. Sometimes you just have to go through the motions, and at least you can tell yourself, well, I'm trying these things. I may not feel it yet. And then it starts to click. It starts to become a habit, a behavioral habit. And when the time comes where you might be going through, hopefully not, but a traumatic time in your life or a major challenge, you've already formed these habits in your life, and you've already created this tool belt for yourself, and you can kind of fall back on that. But if you don't already have that in motion, it's really hard to muster up the strength and the positivity that you need in the moment. So this is definitely more of a practice, and it may not feel right at first, and it may not feel good at first, and that's okay. We'll get there.
And there is actually the physiological side of this as well, where we are literally rewiring the way that our brain thinks. So most people have a tendency to go down the negative route. A lot of people do. And that's actually our biological makeup. This is part of our fright and flight responses. We're protecting ourselves. If we feel fearful or whatever, our brains are going straight down this, okay, negative, got to watch out, run away, whatever it is. So to rewire our brains to actually think more positively literally takes us to go down some different synapse routes. And so that's why it feels unnatural and difficult, because we're trying to do something very different with our biological makeup. So again, keep trying. It will get easier once those new neural pathways are made. Your brain will go to them a lot more easy. So let's have a look. We've got a few more comments coming in, and I'll keep us moving, because otherwise we're going to run out of time.
It's nice that we're agreeing with each other. This is great.
Yeah, exactly. So Tom, yes, I think is agreeing on the thoughts, and starting small and achievable is always a good place to start for me. Francesca, exactly. You took the words right out of my head, which I meant to say earlier, and it is, if you're struggling to think of things, maybe you're trying to think too big. And I think, as someone put in the chat earlier, just a nice cup of coffee in the morning, a blue sky, or even if it's raining, great weather for ducks, whatever you need to be positive, to find some gratitude. Start small. Starting small is always good, and we'll talk about that towards the end as well. Okay, so I'm going to move us on to the next here. So Caitlin, your favorite topic, Carol Dweck and her growth versus fixed mindset. So you may have heard about this already, but this quote, "You're in charge of your mind. You can help it grow by using it the right way." Caitlin, tell us more about this theory, this model concept.
Sure. Thanks, Marie. This is one of my favorite topics. And Carol Dweck is one of my favorite researchers in the field of positive psychology. And she came up with the topic growth mindset. That is when individuals believe that their talents can be developed through hard work, through good strategies, through feedback and input from other people. So that's having a growth mindset as opposed to having a fixed mindset, where people who have a fixed mindset tend to think that their talents are innate, that a lot of the reasons the way they are is that their genetics have, which genetics at times do have, they play a role, but people with a fixed mindset, they worry less about trying hard to be what they want to be. They just think things are the way they are. People who have a growth mindset, they worry less about looking smart. They ask the questions, they put the energy into learning. And that really shows. And through Carol Dweck's research, she talks about how your thoughts affect your actions, and then your actions turn into whether or not you succeed in your career, in your endeavors, in your relationships, just your thoughts in general on your partner, your friends. It's putting in the effort and going the extra mile that really helps you to attain success and to be in more of a positive mind frame. So yeah, I think a lot of what's been done here in this field of growth mindset versus fixed mindset is the fixed mindset kind of has a negative connotation, Marie, and all of you, but I think it's good to know that it's normal to have a fixed mindset in some areas in life. Mm-hmm. And it might always be like that, but it's also great to know that these factors, they're not just innate in your life, and you can change and you can take action and have a growth mindset and really grow yourself. So yeah, that's the exciting part about this topic.
And one thing I've found with fixed versus growth, and like you say, we all have a bit of both. I don't think that you are necessarily one or the other. A bit like being an introvert or an extrovert, most of the time we're not one or the other. It's not that black and white. You know, we get our energy from people and silence, or you know, it's more of a scale, and very contextual, I think, as to when you're feeling these things. And I think it's the same for growth versus fixed. And one thing I've noticed in my coaching, from being coached myself and also through coaching others, is that we're so much better at recognizing where we have our growth mindset, and not so good at recognizing where we're having a fixed mindset, and addressing the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, and not even realizing necessarily that we're in that headspace. So I've always found that having somebody to talk to helps that to come to the surface, that, you know, challenging that fixed mindset. You know, why are you stopping yourself there? Why are you limiting yourself there?
Marie, I think that's really important. I think maybe we could even pose it to the group and have people put in the chat, you know, a time when they might recognize if they have a fixed mindset in any area of your life. That's really something to reflect upon.
Definitely. And just moving on to the next topic, really, from there, is that you know, whether we sit in that growth or fixed mindset is sitting in that 40% that I shared earlier about, you know, where our happiness sits in the choices that we make, and that this is our choice to make. So do we want to stay in this fixed mindset where we might not be making any progress, or do we want to be thinking about more of growing and progressing? So I'll whiz through this one quickly, because I'm amazingly going through the time, like it's accelerated here. But this is one of my favorite topics to talk about in a coaching scenario, is recognizing that we always have a choice. And this quote by Stephen Covey talks about, you know, your life doesn't just happen, it's carefully designed by you, and the choices after all are yours. And it really highlights that we have a choice in every situation. They may not always be choices that we want. Some choices might be harder than others. Where he talks about you choose happiness and you choose sadness, for me, that says that this is around emotional intelligence, which comes with developing your self-awareness. And it's not necessarily, it's, you know, being happy is a reaction, but, you know, you can, it's how you're choosing to, choosing what thoughts you want to listen to and choosing how you respond to situations. And then learning how, you know, how do you control those emotions? So, I mean, happiness, I think you're probably never going to stop yourself from feeling happy if you're in a good space. But if you're feeling sad, you know, or anxious, what can you do to maybe alleviate that a little bit? You know, what choices do you have here? So I think this is just, it's just really important to highlight that, you know, we do always have choices. And if you think, you know, do you know people that always take the easy route, or people that, you know, are willing to go down that harder road? And which one of those is more satisfying? You know, which one is likely to have the bigger rewards? Which one is likely to lead to more happiness and more positivity? And I mean, personally, I feel that going down the easy route each time is not that satisfactory, and doesn't always take you where you really want to be, and probably won't end in huge happiness. But with that in mind, so when we talk about choices, we're talking about where we're choosing to invest our energy. And this is another really a quite famous model, I think, by Stephen Covey, where he talks about the circle of concern and circle of influence. And I actually found this amazingly helpful to me quite a few years ago when I was really struggling, and realized that actually where my head was spending most of its time was in this circle of concern. And when you're focused in that space, you haven't got the energy to focus on the things that you actually can influence. And so if you are feeling that you don't have control, that you're not able to input onto any of the solutions, then this is worth having a go at drawing up your own circle of concern and circle of influence, and think, where am I actually putting my energy here? Because you really want to be putting it in your circle of influence, to be feeling positive, to be feeling like you're having an impact, to be feeling like you can make a difference. It's all going to happen in your circle of concern. And by focusing there, that circle will get bigger, and, you know, will start to expand. And it may be that it takes you more into some of these topics in your circle of influence. An example I can think of is being concerned about climate change. You know, when we listen to this all on the news, there's very little we can do directly with what we're hearing there, but what can we do at our own personal level? You know, can we choose a plant-based diet? Can we choose to do beach cleans? Can we choose to recycle? Things like that, things where we know we're making an impact. And, you know, so those are positive actions, which are going to obviously in turn have a positive impact on your mindset. Caitlin, anything to add on any of these things?
I think you captured it, Marie. I think as you were speaking, I was thinking about how overwhelming it can truly be when you get wrapped up in that circle of concern too much. And I like how you made it important to the group here to realize that once you start focusing on the circle of influence, you can get a nice healthy balance where you kind of include some of those areas of the circle of concern if they're important to you.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to pop questions in the chat if we're going through this too quickly. You want us to go into any more detail with these things. But what we've been talking about here are different things to be doing which will enhance your self-awareness. And, you know, a really key part of developing a positive mindset is becoming more self-aware, getting to know yourself better, and being brave enough to get to know yourself better, and getting comfortable with it, and thinking about, you know, where do I want to make change, if you want to make change. So Caitlin, talk us through this self-awareness theory, because I really, I'm a big fan of this one.
I'm glad, because I am too. So the self-awareness theory kind of goes hand in hand with self-compassion, which we mentioned a little bit earlier, and I'll bring you some more information on that. But the self-awareness theory itself, it's based on the idea that you are not your thoughts, but the entity observing your thoughts. You are the thinker, separate and apart from your thoughts. So let's internalize this a little bit. When we're able to recognize our strengths and our weaknesses, this knowledge helps us be able to set attainable goals for ourselves and reach those goals. At one point when Marie and I were discussing this, I used myself as an example, whereas I knew growing up that biology and chemistry and a lot of those types of sciences weren't my strength. So by the time I graduated uni and was preparing for the real world, it really wasn't in the cards for me to maybe apply to med school or to be a doctor if I really just didn't enjoy or perform well in the science areas. So I stuck with psychology, but that's just a very easy example in terms of self-awareness, where you know what you're good at and you know what you're not good at. And maybe, as we mentioned, the rabbit hole, maybe don't keep going down the rabbit hole to try to fix these weaknesses. Take some time to work on your strengths and to be aware of all of the strengths that you have. A major area in self-awareness is also self-control, where once you're self-aware, it allows you to be able to practice your self-control. And in that, you can work creatively and be more productive, and you can take pride in what you're doing, and you're not just working on things that don't have meaning. So yes, it leads to a lot of things, better decision making, especially in the workplace or in relationships, because you have nothing to hide, and you're not ignorant to who you are. So yeah, any comments with self-awareness before I jump into self-compassion?
Yeah, we've got a couple actually have come through that we can chat about. So the first one is, there are things in life we can't change or that we have no control over. So how do we keep these things out of our circle of concern? And I think, and that's a good question, Angela. And the circle of concern is there for things where you don't have any influence over, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't find a way to have an impact. So again, like I was saying about climate change, I can't fix climate change as a whole, but there are smaller things that I can do to have a positive impact on that. There are things like, if you don't like the government that's in charge, you know, you can't get rid of them or change the PM, but you know, who can you choose to vote for? Can you get involved in talking about, you know, going out and promoting the different parties, things like that. So it's difficult to analyze your question without sort of having a specific example, but it's really about looking at what's in your circle of concern and thinking, is there any part of that I can influence at my level, and what is that? So where do I have some control in that space? And maybe we don't. I can't think of an example again, but I would challenge you to say, is there anything on a much smaller scale that I could have a positive impact on? And we've got another question. Oh, go on, Caitlin, did you have a comment? Go for it.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, and to tell on to what you were just saying, Marie, Julie posed a good question about the more you get to know yourself, what if you dislike yourself more? And what if you tend to find more negative things about you than and fewer positive things? Mm-hmm. And I think thank you for that, Julie. I think that's a really good point and a very good question. I think that's when you look at the various tools, and maybe you dip into speaking with a coach, a life coach, and have someone walk with you through the journey so that you can really start to see your strengths, because there is no person on this earth who only has one strength. There's so many strengths that are even hidden that we're not aware of. And so it's really bringing that self-awareness to life. And sometimes it takes someone who's not in your inner circle or not in your family to help you realize that. It takes a person who's in a neutral setting to help you see that.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a perfect example of wanting change, wanting transformation within yourself. So getting to know yourself is brilliant, because then you know the impact you're having on other people, and are you the person you want to be? And if you're not, how do you become the person you want to be? Because you can become a great person. You just have to recognize what that means to you, and what do you want to, what do you want to do? What type of person do you want to be? How do you want to respond to your friends? So it's hard when we recognize things in ourselves that we don't like, but it's also incredibly powerful, because we are not ignoring the traits about ourselves that we don't like, and we have an opportunity to change them. This all comes down to the choices we make, choices of who we are, who we want to be, and taking action on that. And the taking action is hard, but it's also very empowering. Becoming a better version of you is amazing, incredibly rewarding. And as Caitlin says, working with a coach or finding, Caitlin and I both experienced career coaching in our previous role for a number of years, and there's colleagues who were obviously trained to have those types of conversations with us. So finding someone that is not part of your friendship or relationship circle is incredibly powerful if they're able to help you be more self-aware and kindly help you move in a different direction. But those are really good points, so thank you both for sharing. And obviously, if you want to talk about any of those things offline, then feel free to reach out to myself or Caitlin after the session.
So Paul has kindly given us a resource for exercises to do to get some insightful self-awareness. So thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. I've never heard of these. Have you, Caitlin?
No, I haven't. No. I started Googling once I saw that. So thanks.
You have a Google. And let's move on to the next slide as well to talk about. Well, actually, this is quite an interesting little fact that I've thrown in here. So Dr. Tasha Eric revealed that 95% of people think that they are self-aware, but it's actually close to just 15, which I just found this statistic really, really amazing. We all think we know ourselves, but if it really is just 15% of us that really do know ourselves, that's not a lot, is it? Think how much there is that we can learn about ourselves. So, Caitlin, talk to us about self-compassion then.
Sure. So as I mentioned before, this self-compassion, this topic folds in well with self-awareness. And you've probably heard the phrases like, you can't love anyone else until you love yourself first. You can't take care of anyone until you take care of yourself first. And they kind of sound cliche, but these phrases are grounded in truth. It all starts with you. So if you're not in a good place, you just take a step back, have compassion that you're not in the best place, and you just start little by little to find your inner peace, even if it's just listening to your favorite song, getting outside for a walk, as we mentioned earlier, and just be okay with the fact that maybe you're not in the best headspace, but give yourself a little hug, maybe a piece of chocolate, and tell yourself it's going to be okay. When you're in this type of headspace, it's really difficult to be in a position to help your partner or family members or parents or children or friends, because you really do have to have compassion for yourself and take care of yourself first before you help other people. And I think we all know that, but really living that way is crucial.
It's that analogy of put your own oxygen mask on first and then you help others. We talk about this with mental health, supporting people with their mental well-being, but it's true, isn't it? We need to be in a good place ourselves. We need to be able to know that we can respond positively. So I love that picture of hugging yourself in the mirror. I think it's kind of what you want sometimes, isn't it? When you look in the mirror, and I mean, I can look in the mirror sometimes and have some really negative thoughts. So it'd be great if that person reached through and just gave me a big hug and said, "Shut up."
That's what you need to do for yourself, Marie. And I think that photo reminds me of the analogy of, and I do this. I try to catch myself and do this, where when I'm trying to have self-compassion and it's not really working, I think, how would you help a friend in the same situation that you're in? What if a dear friend is going through the same challenge that you are? What would you say to your friend? And actually say that to yourself and give yourself a hug. So it's about practicing self-compassion, and it's recognizing that you can control the thoughts in your mind. And it's okay if other thoughts come in your mind that you don't really want to welcome. Just keep pushing them aside and just keep reminding yourself that you have more control than you think. It's reframing your thoughts, right? There's, and I'm guilty of this too, the self-sabotaging and the ruminating at nighttime, especially for me, or feeling anxious. Talk to a friend, talk to yourself first, and then talk to a friend. And if that's not going so well, talk to, as we said, someone neutral. It's really important. This is another one of those topics that sounds kind of light and fluffy, but it's so important, especially to the people around you too.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. So we've only got 5 minutes left. I can't believe how quickly this just flown by. And so we're going to follow up today's session with these activities and just summarizing some of the things that we've gone through so that you can just have a noodle on them yourself, and you may want to start putting some of these things into practice. But what we've done is just put together a list of potential activities that can really help you get on the right step for some positive thinking. So understanding your values and strengths. I don't know if any of you have visited my webinar, my website, but I can share links in our follow-up email to values exercise and strengths activity, where you'll get to know yourselves a little bit better, and hopefully through that you will start to see how that's aligned with your thinking. You might want to have a go at drawing your own circle of concern to see, where are you spending the majority of your headspace and your energy. Start practicing some self-compassion. Can you catch yourself thinking in certain ways and start reframing it? Can you give yourself a hug and be kind to yourself rather than going at yourself with all of these negative thoughts? If you haven't already, it is January, but a lot of people do start to set themselves some goals. I find having just a direction of where I want to be, maybe some high level priorities, but it can be really helpful each day or each week to set yourself some small goals and some small tasks that are really achievable and very realistic, that you can be doing them, even if they are as small as, I'm going to make my bed today. Today is going to be the day that I make my bed, and I walk into my room this evening and that bed is made and it's brilliant. And then you can start celebrating those successes. So if you've set yourself some small achievable goals, make sure you celebrate those successes, because that will make you feel awesome. Celebrate any wins that you can and focus really hard on those. Practice some gratitude if you can. Think about a few things each morning that you're grateful for, or at the end of the day before you go to bed, whichever works for you. It can just be a really nice way to kickstart the day or fall asleep too. Prioritize your well-being. I'm going to say this because, you know, that is what I live and breathe at the moment. The one area I cannot iterate too many times is that sleep is the most important thing you can do for your well-being, your physical well-being, your mental well-being. If you are not getting quality sleep, then you're going to struggle with all of these things. And the best way to get quality sleep is to be as consistent as you can with your sleep times and your wake up times, even through the weekends. Consistency on timing is just, it's the most powerful way to start controlling how good a quality your sleep is. You could also try some journaling to help you manage all of these things. Keep it short, keep it manageable so that it's not taking up hours in your day, but we can show you some examples of some short journaling practices. And then finally, find someone neutral to talk to about all of these things and help you on your way, whether it's a coach, a friend, a co-worker. If there are things that you are really struggling with, if you're really struggling to find that positive space, then think about contacting a therapist, because we can't neglect our mental well-being. And if you are struggling, coaching might help, but a therapist might be someone better for you. So I'm going to leave you today with one final question, and you can share this in the chat if you want. I'd love to hear what final thing you might take away today. What is one small step you might take based on what you have learned in today's session? And if you have a minute, or not even a minute, 10 seconds to share in the chat what you might do leaving this session, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, you've hung on with us for an hour and we appreciate it. So give us one step that you could take today. What's holding you back?
And any feedback on this session, if there was anything missing that you would have liked to have heard about. We are looking to put on some group coaching programs as well. So we will keep people updated about that if that's something that people will be interested in. And that's it from us. So it's been wonderful to have everybody here. I hope that you found this session informative and useful. If you'd like to get in touch with Caitlin or myself, you can reach out to us. I think I've got my contact details on here, and I can pass anything on to Caitlin. And thank you for people who are starting to share.
Make better positive choices. All right. This has been so great. And thank you to all of you for joining us. And as Marie said, please, we welcome the feedback. So we hope to see some of your faces and names again. And lastly, big thank you to Marie, Queen of Wellbeing, and for doing this and letting all of us join you, especially me. You are great, Marie, and we really appreciate you doing this for us.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin. Thank you for joining us and being our expert speaker on today's session.
Happy to. This is all good stuff. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.